I've always wanted to know the why. I want to know people's reasoning. I'm always curious. What's going on in their brains? What do they really want? Is there a faster way?
In this episode of Conversations Beyond the Brand, Tashana Thompson sits down with Charlotte Merritt, founder of Ops Now, a creative leader in operations strategy and fractional COO services, helping businesses scale through thoughtful, people-centered systems and design.
Tell us some more about the values that kind of center and ground you as a person and lend itself to your operations.
I have a good bit of faith. And I would say the church I grew up in was probably one step above Quaker. You have 4 hours. This person needs help grocery shopping, driving, building, cleaning. Go do it. So it was a very service-based church that I grew up. And so those values from a very young age being reflected in my church life and in my home life. There's a lot of intimidation with some operations lingo, workflow, SOPs, framework, linkages, and handoffs. I don't show up with, here's my process. I show up with, do you see any room for changes? I want my clients to always lead these conversations because it's about them.
What advice do you have for leaders who glaze over all the ops stuff because it's not sexy? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations Beyond the Brand. I am your host, Dr. Tashana Thompson, and the CEO of Beyond Business Solutions. And I am super ecstatic about season 2, where we're talking all about wearing your values in your personal and professional life. And today's guest is someone who really exemplifies this topic yet once again. Charlotte Merritt with Ops Now is someone I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the last, 3 or 4 years now. It feels like, if not more. And I'm just ecstatic about having you here today, Charlotte. So welcome to the podcast. I am going to let you tell the people who you are and what you bring to the world.
I bring a lot of sarcasm to the world. So we'll just answer that in reverse. I'm Charlotte Merritt, and who am I? I'm an Atlanta native, y'all. It is, as much as we wear our values, us Atlanta kids, like we wear that like a badge of honor. So grew up in the city, Atlanta public schools, and I'm still ITP now, and I love getting to talk with great people, and that's just who I am.
Awesome. So, Charlotte, you and I met through networking many years ago and have kind of bonded over our sarcasm and our and the fact that we are both Leo twinsies wearing black together today. Just kind of kindred spirits. I really have enjoyed you. And when I met you, you were working for an organization, and you've since ventured out and started this amazing new business. So tell me, you're ops expert. So tell me about that.
I worked for a big corporation, and there was a lot to learn about corporate structure that I'd never had in all my years of experience. I'd always been C-suite in smaller companies. And when I was ready to go out on my own, I'll be very honest, I tripped over myself and said, no. Let me have a corporate experience before I go out on my own. And as one does, they quickly realize if you are built for corporate or not. I'm not. So that's how I got to being fractional COO operations and figuring it out day by day.
I love it. What do you want people to feel when they engage with your brands?
When they engage with the brand, I would like for people to feel excited. Like, wait, somebody else will lay the groundwork for me. Somebody will go into my brain or my team's brains and extract all this framework, write it down, organize it for me. If you've ever moved, which is terrifying to do and a lot of work. But that moment where you are downsizing everything and then putting things away a better way, putting it on a different shelf and organizing it better. Your house was fine before. You knew where the forks were. You could find a spoon. You know where the good baking sheets were versus the ones your kids could use. But when you move and let someone else kind of shuffle the deck and look at it again, oh, that's better. That's what I want people to feel like. Oh, she is going to come in and make my brain, my business work better.
I love that. I love that. And tell me, how did you know that you weren't a corporate girl? As you say, because I think that's a big part of our value system, like whether or not your values align with certain corporation norms.
So because I'm a toddler, and I'll say, but why? But why? But why? Why? Or their favorite, what outcome are you trying to get? And you don't get to do that in a multi-thousand person publicly traded company. The answer is much like when you're a toddler, because I said so. But
Yeah.
why? Because my boss said so. But why? Well, because their boss said so. But why? And I will admit that I worked for, I would argue, one of the best big corporations out there in terms of culture and being kind of very people focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I can rationalize, when you make a decision for how one person can do something on your team versus a 3-person team versus a 5,000, 8,000 person team, you have to have some of those standards and guidelines that I put in for my small companies. But just for me, I'm always going to question why. I want to know the outcome. What do you need me to do versus what do you want me to accomplish are very different. You don't get the right to ask those questions for about 10, 15, 20 years. And I asked the third week. And again, it was of the corporations of the world. This was, I think, just a phenomenal one that I worked for. But you're still not supposed to question, but
The
why?
authority and what's laid there, even when it doesn't make sense. I think that
And I've struggled with that my whole life. Well, that doesn't make sense.
right. Why do you think that is? Like, what within you, like, is that just a part of like innately who you are, like questioning and exploring?
Yes. Childhood. I would love to say, Maslow's hierarchy or any other psychology, like we all evolve and no. I've always wanted to know the why. It's like those, well, my husband's a great example. He wants to know why, but it's always mechanical. He wants to take something apart, rebuild it. He wants to take that clock radio, take it apart, rebuild it, and then he knows the why. And I want to know the why, but not mechanically. Like it'll never go back together. I want to know people's reasoning. I'm always curious. What's going on in their brains? What do they really want? Is there a faster way? And maybe I remember I had a team once and I was hiring and I said, hire the ADHD person. The boss was like, why? Because we are lazy. We're going to get it done. We're going to get it done quickly. And we're going to find the best, easiest path because we want to get it done, check it off the list and go about daydreaming, or we want to figure out how to do it quickly, daydream, then get it done the last 10 minutes. And so that is, we've been diagnosed since I was a child, and there's a smattering of other fun things, but it comes down to my world is best when it's in order and when I know exactly where everything is and it's always there. Now I do that for companies. I can take my OCD and get paid for it.
I love that. I love that. So we've known each other for a little while. We've talked about like the values that guide you as a human and how you bring those values over into your work. And I think that you told us a little bit about that in terms of seeking the why or the truth behind things. But tell us some more about the values that kind of center and ground you as a person and lend itself to your operations.
So whether or not this is allowed on a podcast, I have a good bit of faith in
allowed.
We'll just call okay. Let's call it spirituality, right? For the sake of professionalism. And I grew up in a Methodist church, which is and I would say the church I grew up in was probably one step above Quaker. Just very humble, you have $5 and you need three, that person needs two, you have it. You have 4 hours, this person needs help grocery shopping, driving, building, cleaning, go do it. So it was a very service-based church that I grew up. And so those values from a very young age being reflected in my church life and in my home life as a third kid of, we'll call it middle class, but probably lower middle class, you had to do chores immediately. Like if you were tall enough to put a grocery away, you did. If you were tall enough to put a dish away, you did. And those values of hard work and helping everyone around you and never having more than you need. What do you need? What do you want? And everything else is something that you can share. Those are blessings you can share with others. And those values from an early age have stuck with us. Like my son leads a lovely life, and I want him to have the same values. So he goes to a very similar Methodist church, and he does chores. He mows the lawn. He unloads the dishwasher. Somebody was like, "Oh, my parents only give me this much money for an allowance." And I was like, "You get an allowance? My kid gets a roof." Like, what I mean? And I don't know. I guess I just really haven't strayed as my life has grown and as my blessings have grown. I really think there's a core value of, what do you really need?
Mm, that's good. That's so good, Charlotte. And it explains so much of who you are from a philanthropic perspective. And I mean, we've talked about this and we talk about faith in our side conversations, but you just connected some dots for me that weren't connected before during our lunches.
Ladies'
And I
lunches.
think it's so powerful, and those values lend themselves to our businesses, how we raise our children. I just had a podcast episode with my 8-year-old, and we had a very similar conversation about how we treat people is like a really big thing in our household. It's the thing, and our faith and our family. Those are the things that matter. And when you have those things in your heart, you take it with you everywhere. You don't put it off and put it down when you go to serve your clients. Like it's a part of your DNA.
Oh, Sunday values versus Monday? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, girl, we won't go there.
That's a ladies' lunch topic. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a ladies' lunch conversation. But it's absolutely true. Like, what do you stand for? Who are you really? And do you profess to love Jesus as you and I do, and then come to work and, take it off and treat people like crap, and then go to work and go to church and present something else? And it's like, people don't want to hear about our God. They want to hear about our love, and they want to hear about how we show up for people. So I think that's very, very telling of who you are. And, even how you described your business and how you're going into companies and putting things in order. So many small businesses, believe me, this has been the struggle of in the bane of my existence in a marketing business. Those SOPs and workflows and all of the things that you're brilliant at, is just so needed. So let's talk about how, you kind of bring all of this together, when you're working with your clients.
I think there's a lot of intimidation with some operations lingo, workflow, SOPs, framework, linkages and handoffs. Like, that sounds like a lot of work. And I think I'm hoping to sign a client this week, but they've had consultants come in, and they come in with these programs and these platforms, and we're going to do it this way because this is how I was trained. I think what I do is different. It is in some ways a bit like my faith. We're like, yeah, sure, Jesus, I will 100%, great guy, amazing topics, like all
Mhm.
for it. But on the same, vein, there's some parts of Buddhism I like. There's some parts of like I will collect to build what I truly believe. And I think the same is with operations. I love some of the green belt ideas and the leans and the agiles. But there's a lot of common sense that goes into it. So I go into my clients and I don't show up with, here's my process. I show up with, this is really simple. You're probably doing 90%. I just have to have a conversation about 4 times in a row, make sure I have everything right. And then, yes, I am going to build things on the back end. I am going to write SOPs, but it's a team conversation. It is working. And then I'm not going to look at it and be like, this is where you're messy. This is where you're inefficient. And this is how to fix it. I will think those things. Those are inside thoughts. And I do my best with my face to keep them inside thoughts. But again, then we sit down and I give it to them on paper. Do you see any room for changes? I want my clients to always lead these conversations because it's about them. And at the end of the day, I'm there for 3-6 months. I can write beautiful policies that I would run a 10-person company of my own with. But if it doesn't work for them, I've just handed them a pricey piece of paper, right? And it doesn't reflect maybe their company values. So again,
It's so true. It's so true. And I think that tone is instinctively human and strategic at the same time. I was reading one of your blogs where you were talking about like talking through SOPs and getting things out of your own head. And you kind of just described that process pretty seamlessly. Why do you believe that this is vital for businesses to kind of go through that process?
have you ever gone to the grocery store knowing the 5 things you need? I need milk, eggs, ham, cheese, and bread.
Not without a list.
No, I mean just in your head. Ever just walked
Yeah,
in
I
your head?
have. I
Only
have
5 things,
tried.
only 5 things. It's the same 5 things I buy every week. And then you walk out with Oreos and milk
Well, ice
and
cream
iced coffee, pumpkin
and
spice.
wine.
Oh, I get that delivered. But you know what I mean? So it is that same because they don't have to think about it. It just shows up.
Yep,
Um,
that's hilarious.
it just does. It is the same thing with getting these SOPs written down. You nailed it. Well, not without a list. Our brains, our hearts, we know what we need. However, we are inherently human and shiny things show up. So what I like and why I think is so inherently important to first off have those frameworks and those workflows. I work with really smart, wonderful people who get the job done. I'm not going into broken companies trying to fix anything.
No.
I go into companies that are growing, but almost in their own way. And they know that and they don't know how to fix it. So what I want to do is, I lost my own train of thought because then I started building my own grocery list. I was like, do I have milk? Um, the reason SOPs are so important is because it is the map. It is the grocery list. It is this is how to do it at the base level. If you show up day 1, this is the expectation. Now, if someone comes in and does it better, faster, more efficiently, has another great idea, amazing. But it's like a job description. This is the baseline expectation and the map of how to do it. If you're doing it the same way in 5 years, whoops, you didn't grow. But you have to have that baseline. This is how it's done. And you should revisit them every few years. Technologies will change, products might change, direction might change. So if you don't have a map, you don't, in my opinion, have the right to go sightseeing. You need to know how to get there. Now, if you decide to go that way, amazing, it gets the job done. But have that map. And especially with workflows. So the client that I'm bidding on, he's like, well, how are we going to really know their workflows? And this is actually a pretty large company. And I said, well, I'm going to bring 3 balls of yarn and we're going to play a game. I kid you not. This big company was like, you're going to what? I'm like, how do you know where the handoffs are and where the blockages are? Because I know where they are. I've seen them. I know how this game's going to end. Unless we play the yarn game. I've never done this with a client, but this is just a great example of why the workflows are important because we're going to go through, marketing will be a color. It's manufacturing. The plant will be a color and the C-suite will be a color. And every handoff you toss to that person. And then when he tosses back, and I want to build this messy spider web and say, Now let's put this on paper. Did this toss need to happen? Why did this toss come back here? If we have this C-suite
Good.
on this side of the room and the what I call grinders, the people who do the work on that side, why does it keep coming back? So that's why workflows are important, because when you work with smaller companies under 100 employees, your owners and your C-suite are so involved in the day-to-day, and they're so
Mhm.
incredibly good at wearing 500 hats because we
Mhm.
start that way.
Yep.
So these workflows, these SOPs, that's when we start saying to owners and C-suite, you don't have to catch the ball of yarn. It can stay over there. And that's more efficient.
That's good, Charlotte. Oh, you don't have to catch a ball of yarn. I mean, as a small business owner that's been in business for 19 years and still, you know, running a
Juggling.
small business and still catching balls of yarn, I think that illustration is so powerful.
I can't do it for my own company, as I was doing invoices at 9 p.m. last night. That was me
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I think I have some yarn in my pocket I was supposed to do something with."
What
You
is the
know,
saying? The whoever's kid has no shoes. Like
the
it's the
cobbler's
same.
kid. The
Yeah,
cobbler's
just know it's the same. I wait until fourth quarter to build my fourth quarter strategy for marketing. Like, like it's just the way I didn't this year. I've already done it.
I love a good 90-day plan. And you know what?
Yeah,
You can't do that once. Ah, I did my 90-day plan this year.
yeah.
There's more than 90 days.
There's more than 90 days. But I think that it's so telling. It's like, this illustration that you really give them and how messy it is when it doesn't have to be. And that contributes to what I think that you and I both deal with working in fractional roles with organizations. I'm in fractional marketing, you're in fractional ops, is that you need the buy-in of your client. Like we can come in with all these lofty ideas and probably often do, but if we don't have the buy-in of our clients, what are we doing? Because it's never going to go anywhere. And that illustration is going to get them to buy in.
Right. And then it says it's not, okay, so that particular client, their prospect rather, there's two buildings.
Yeah.
It's one company. Just because you're housed in like the C-suite, not, this is the first time I will play this game with a client, but it's really important that they do this, like with or without me. If I don't get the contract back, I'm still gonna write down. I already told him I'm gonna write down the instructions and be like, play the game.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You're going to get it. You're going to get it. I'm praying for you. But that's just like such a powerful illustration of like why these things need to take place, especially as companies grow and scale. Um, you're bringing new people in, you're bringing new roles, and everything, for a long time, like for me, lived in my head. Well, this is the way you do this, and I've worked, had the pleasure of working with some great ops people. They got it out of my head, like you talked about already, and into flows that you have to revisit. I think that we revisit them quarterly, and even every time we add a new team member, like, okay, how can we improve training? Like those types of things are really important. So, how does designing workflows with this type of intention free people up to lean into higher level contributions?
I'm giving everyone power.
Mm-hmm.
So your founder, if it's a small company, your founder and the one C-suite who might have been their best friend from college, I'm giving them the power to say no. Yep, I don't need to check your work. Right? Like I trust you now. This is not, the workflow doesn't flow back to me, it stays with you. So they have that power of no. And I'll admit it, I'm not EOS certified to be an integrator, but man, have I taken every class and gone to everything I can and read the book. I have 2 copies of the book I found out the other day when doing some organizing. I was like, oh, okay. But what I love about EOS is these founders, whether it's attorney or if it's manufacturing, they're what's called visionaries. They have all these great ideas. There's another personality assessment called like wealth dynamics, and they're, you know, they talk about being the creator. If you give a creator time back or a visionary time back, they're going to have the next big idea.
Yep.
When you are taking these visionaries or these creators or these founders and you're making them do the stuff they don't want to do, the company's not going to get those high level next big ideas, next big things. Now, caveat, visionaries, typically ADHD, super squirrely, might have 15 good ideas when you let them loose. They they need that integrator to be like, let's filter these and try one. But you have to give these people their time back. So that's on the C-suite side, right? Like you've given these people time back to make strategic goals, to find the next big idea. On the flip side, what I call the grinders or the worker bees, or however you want to phrase it, the people who are in their day to day getting it done, you've empowered them to do better because you've literally empowered them. It's no longer, hey, I wrote this contract. Does it look good? As an attorney. And then the owner's like, yes. By taking that transaction away, like psychology of that is my senior managing partner, my owner, my whatever the title might be, trusts me to do this work. So I'm just going to do it. And because they trust me, I'm going to do it the best. So if they do happen to peek over, they know it's good. But as that timeline rolls along, suddenly they're going to be like, well, I think I can do this better. And then they feel some power to try a different thing, make it better, experiment a little. And this is where the magic is. And what's terrible for me is I don't get to see this because this is 6 months after I've done my piece. And my only hope is that I get a phone call, right? Or a thank you somewhere, or a bottle of wine on my doorstep, cab or Zen. That's where the magic happens and growth happens. And everyone just kind of feels connected and glued and has some ownership of the outcome of the company. And they get it. Like if I work with a company, it's what's in it for me. I'm just the legal assistant. What do I care if the owner goes out and gets 10 more cases? So glad you asked, right? Like you have to give them that ownership, that empowerment.
Absolutely. But there comes a sense of pride and autonomy when you tell people, hey, I believe that you're capable of doing this. I don't need to see it again. I don't need to see it again. You got it. Remember what I said? Remember your checklist. Remember your frameworks. You got it. I don't like that. What that makes people sit up a little straighter and really like take ownership and pride. And I often tell my team, this is your business. What would you do? My success is quite literally your success. So what would you do?
I love that.
And, they come up with some really creative things. And I just love how you position that and giving these C-suite execs their time back and these visionaries their time back and not having to sit up in the middle of the night, because what we do, worrying about, did that thing go to this person? And did that get checked off? Like the mental space that frees up is amazing.
And there's owners, I'm working, there's owners that can't fully let that go. Okay. Then let's build something where you have transparency, right? Whether that's, there's so many great apps. Like there's ClickUp, there's Airtable, there's Monday, there's just thinking Microsoft Planner does a pretty good job, right? So if you have that owner who's like, okay, well, I will trust them, but I still want to take a peek. Okay. Let's build something really easy that does not add time to them. Like we don't want them to do the work, talk about the work, report the work, track the work. Like let's find one thing that both helps them move a project along, but also gives you, that peek in, right? So as much as I would love to say that every small business owner and founder is just going to take what we say, what would you do if it's your business? Or what would you do if I gave you 5 hours back? Like at some point, it's still their company. It's often their name on the door. So find ways if they can't fully let go. Okay. Well, let's just give you, the glass window into the plant so you can just see.
Before we jump back in, have you ever felt like running your business means wearing so many hats? Like you're juggling everything at once? That's why we're proud to have Beyond Business Solutions as the sponsor of this episode. They help entrepreneurs like you stay organized, save time, and focus on what really matters, growing your business. If you're looking for your very own branding and marketing team that truly cares about helping you succeed, visit beyondsolutions.biz. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
I think doing those peaks for those of us who are running, small businesses, it is helpful to make sure, okay, that did happen. The train is moving. So I like that you said that. So what metrics or indicators do you propose for measuring whether operations not just uplift efficiency, but also uplift people? The people are doing this work, right?
So I love working with law firms for this one question because it's really easy. What do your billable hours look like? Lawyers make KPIs so darn easy. Like, because if I've given an associate time back and a paralegal time back, then their billable hours go up and then the firm makes money. And that's all super easy. Love that. It gets harder when it's a consulting firm or manufacturing. Because I'll be honest, I'm not making the plant necessarily more efficient because I'm not an industrial engineer.
Right.
Right. I'm just kind of mapping how they get the stuff and how often they check back. But, the KPIs outside of legal, which is so darn easy with billable hours, it comes down to compliance on the SOP and understanding. So my kid went to Montessori for a long, long time. And one of the things I loved about the Montessori method was watch, do, teach. So when I think about KPIs for operations, it's not quite the same. It's because I watch and then they do, and then they teach me. So by the time we have done a current process and a future process, like, hey, here's the what's next, here's how we made it better. When I come back to revisit looking for those KPIs, are you getting more done? What are you doing with the extra time? Time is my currency. That's what it is.
I love that. I love that. Time is my currency. Can you share an example of a client transformation where the system shifted both the culture and the capacity of the organization?
Yes. I hope. Can I go with I hope? So I'm going to start with a really silly story first, and it'll make sense, I promise. So just bear with me. And here's the story. You ready for it?
Ready.
So an adult child was making the family's recipe, the roast. Put the roast in the pan. First step is cut off both ends. Why? Calls mom. Mom, why do I cut off both ends of the roast? Well, that's what my mom did. Cool. By the way, this funny story, if you have not already heard it, has a whole lot of imagination of how long.
Yes.
Right? So calls grandma. Grandma, why do we cut off both ends of the roast? Well, I don't know. My mom did it. Cool. Thanks. Bye. Calls great grandma. Great grandma, why did we cut off both ends of the roast? Well, my pan didn't fit the roast, so I would cut off the ends. So that to me is operations in a nutshell. Why do you do it? Well, that's how I was taught. Why do you do it? Well, that's how I was taught. Why do you do it? That's how I was taught. Why do you do it? Well, that's how I did it when I was the only person working here and I had to do 10 things. With that roast story, I have an amazing client who is doing really incredible work to protect other small businesses, small founders, creators, just truly a passion for protecting people through the law. And as firms often do, founders go from big firm to themselves to maybe a law clerk or an associate. And billing was done on a piece of paper, a Word doc, a shared Word doc, with notes typed and a number at the end. And then at the end of the month, that was tallied up. This client this, the next entry, client B that, client C this, client A again this, manually added. So my first transformation there was, well, let's move to Excel. It will do the math for us.
Yeah.
And we can pull it, have each sheet for a client, and I built the sheet, and pull it in so no one's doing math. No one wants to do math. Goodness. Especially with billing on Fridays. Like, math is done by Friday. So that was one. And that gave the legal assistant some time back. And it made it easier for the associate attorneys and the owner to kind of see where things were. So it gave just that insight. So that was transformation 1. Transformation 2. And this one, it breaks my heart a little, but also makes me happy at the end. One of the associates was like, what is, like, magic wand? What can I fix? I don't like to start at 9 a.m. Oh, well, I mean, you're a remote firm. Like, When do you want to start? Why? And why? I'd like to start at 8 a.m. because my significant other leaves the house at 8 and I just sit for an hour. Were you told you had to start at 9? No. And I remember saying, do not ask your boss. Start whenever you want to start. Your job is to get the job done with X number of billable hours. You just do that. So I went to the founder who, again, just passionate about helping people, right? Helping and protecting. And the owner was understandably a little bit like taken aback and hurt and like, my gosh, why would the associate think that? They just have to get the job done. I trust them. Of course they can start when they want to start, which works for their day. And so that was like the second transformation of like teaching sounds awfully arrogant, but opening people's eyes to, you can ask, but why? And you can ask for, I don't know if it was a generational thing, but you have this passionate owner who's so incredibly loyal to their remote team and like builds this team up. And yet the team never said, well, but why do I start at 9? So that was a big transformation of like, wait, I get to be more than just someone grinding out work. And then like the third thing was building another platform for transparency in someone's day. And I gave each associate back about half an hour. And I did it in a way that, again, the founder is going to get time back too. So still cut it. My currency is time, right? And that's a transformation. If someone feels, again, that ownership, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
My skills, knowledge, experience matter, even though I'm not the owner and it's not my name on the door.
Mm-hmm.
That's a transformation. And these are tiny little things from the outside, right? Like these are, I'm moving toothpicks, right? To me, oh, that's easy. Just do that. But to the people that are impacted, oh, how cool would that feel if someone's like, of course I trust you to do this work. That is transformation. Mm-hmm. Now, along the way, I'm building SOPs and I'm loving handoffs. And I'll admit it, the owner had an idea that I'm stealing for life. The owner of that company was like, hey, you did the SOPs in order of us just talking about it. Move them to the order of the workflow you have. Of course, I'm going to remember these. Now, thank you. Write that down. I'll do that forever. And I love that. I love, I'm not the queen of operations.
Like, it's the collaboration and like, and at first I want to talk about the transformations that you created. And to some, they may seem overly simplistic, but that's the point. And that's the point that most businesses miss, especially small ones, because we think we have to go from doing everything in a day planner to putting everything in another platform that we pay $1,000 a year for it. Like we just overthink it. And literally, you didn't tell those people, hey, why are you doing that? Go to some big fancy platform. Use Excel.
Well, they are paying for a big fancy platform, and that is my end goal. I see that.
But baby step. Because that's also harder. That's a much harder transition. Word to big fancy platform. Like I just love the way that you kind of like have put it in a sequence that is easy for people to adjust to, because people hate change. Let's just be real.
And they hate consultants who come in and tell them to change. What do you know? You don't even work here.
And arrogantly, I think it's all about the heart in which you go into a space and the humility that you go into a space. Like, I don't know. Like, I have a vision. God has blessed me when I go into organizations. Like, I can see what this could be. But what do you want it to be?
Yes.
It's
those inside dots with the outside where I'm like, I know exactly what needs to happen.
This on billboards and we could do all this, but what do you want? What's aligned to your life and your goals? And what you're saying is you did the same thing. And I really can appreciate that, and like shining a light on the aspects of culture where that one shift of an hour, one conversation. And I would argue that that person's probably going to be more productive if they're like an early starter that needs to get in and crack things out.
I did tell them that. I said, look, I said, this is your cheat code. Everyone else is starting at 9. You're in an hour earlier. Your inbox is cleared. You're not
You're ready for the
kind of
day.
reactive, And it does have to be. So I've got another client, also a law firm, and one of the paralegals was struggling with timekeeping, with billables and whatnot. And one solution that was presented, we'll just do it this way. And what came down to was, it doesn't matter what I tell her. Oh, we'll just use a stopwatch, use Clockify. There's 500 apps. You can overtech anything now. This day and age, you can overtech any old thing. And we tried color blocking the schedules and this and that. And finally she goes, I'm going to buy 2 more monitors. And I was like, oh, that feels like a lot. But you know what? Email, legal software, clocks for every client. And it solves, right? So as much as I would not have come up with that answer, right? Like I was like, well, hey, we should color block our schedule and only answer emails at this hour, this hour, and this hour. And she tried it. No, because it didn't. 3 monitors.
And I think that is the thing, that being a consultant, really having to come in with an open mind and not take offense when your way isn't the way. Like, and that's something small, but you could have said, well, I just don't think, you could have balked at that and made it a deal. But in the best interest of the client, you went with it because it works for them. It doesn't matter what we think. At the end of the day, we're bringing our expertise, but the method in getting there, again, I'll say it over and over again, they have to buy into.
And this person, she's not even the client, right? Like she's not the client, the senior managing partner, the associate. She's the paralegal,
Right.
But however, paralegals are like the nurses of the world, man. They get things done.
They do. And they have a lot of, they turn the necks a lot.
Someone recently gave me that example too.
And you can't treat them poorly. And that's that's a whole other conversation. So I'll stay focused. So values-based operations doesn't happen in a vacuum. Like you kind of talked about how you're bringing your full self into this work and how you're designing systems and processes that align with what the people need. So I want to take us back a little bit to the beginning. How do you stay rooted personally and professionally so that you're able to guide clients through this type of transformation?
Nothing in the world will give you a check as to who you are than having teenagers in the house. Let's be honest. So over the summer, I had my niece stay with us all summer, like fingers crossed for that being more of a permanent solution in the future. But she's real girly, like real girly. I'm not like, so nothing will humble you faster than her going, you're going out like that? You're not going to brush your so that's a really great way to stay grounded. Yeah, there's a teenage boy, and this is where we find out what really gets edited out, who has learned that if he farts directly on you, that is a $5 penalty and an immediate hand me your phone. So this other humbling thing is watching your teenage boy figure out how close he can fart on you without getting the penalty. And there's nothing. I lead a beautiful life. I do. I vacation.
Oh my God, that's disgusting.
You have a girl. I
have a stepson, and he didn't do that.
I typically get a lot of what I want, either because I've worked for it or just because I am in that position. So to stay grounded, when in doubt, have a 16-year-old girl go,
what are you doing with your face?
Can I just straighten your hair? Can I just brush your hair? But also it comes back to that first value of my needs are, we're not going to go small because we've established that we are Leos.
Period. Like,
but I know
red blood.
I did go red. I know where my line is. There's actually an article, I don't remember when it came out in Fortune magazine, and I think the title was like Gen Xer refuses to be a billionaire. Super fluff piece, to be honest, and I found inaccuracies in it, mostly because I know the Gen Xer they were talking about. But the interesting thing is that this Gen Xer in this Fortune magazine is like, hey, my family's decided to cap our wealth at 100 million. That's our number. No matter what I make, no matter what I do, The rest of it gets given away. Now, this person in the article has probably had some 18 startups, not the 3 the article mentions, and has the biggest splash was sold a company for 1.6 billion. This person is not a billionaire. This person has had another startup and another company since then and continues to grow and work. And while that is not my number in my household, nor will it ever be. Okay, so it's a family member. I will admit that, not a close family member, but I think the values stay. I know what I need. So how do I stay grounded? What more do I need? You mentioned that, you go to church on Sundays. I don't. I drop off my kid on
Sunday.
dad, and I find the most connected, peaceful, grounding moment is I go for a walk in the woods. Like, I recently had a birthday. My husband's like, we should go here. We should go there. We should do this. I'm like, can we go to the mountains on a lake and just exist and wake up and look at trees and hear animal? Like, that's how I stay grounded, because I think in another life, if I fully believed in that, I might have been an owl or a bat, probably a bat, because they're kind of twitchy. I just want to sit and look at trees.
You're hilarious. But I get that. Like, your family definitely will ground you, even if they're not, I grew up in a house where we couldn't say fart.
So did I.
Pooped. We passed gas. Like, even that.
We could pass gas. We were not allowed to acknowledge any bodily functions. It was very modest.
That serious.
Do you see these collarbones? Like,
yeah, we weren't that, but we weren't and aren't now. Although my daughter's asking for it, we really are trying to find a church home. But we're not people that go to church every Sunday or things like that. But staying grounded, like you mentioned, and spending time outdoors and praying and meditating, like, those are the things that matter, I think. And not that, going to church is obviously awesome too, if that works for you or whatever your faith is. Yeah. My daughter's asking for it. She's like, we really have to find a church.
I'm like, I will say the most powerful moment in his spiritual journey, he went to church camp for 2 weeks. It happened to be a backpacking camp. So he was backpacking for 2 weeks at the church camp. And he came back and he had this moment of devotion and spiritual moment. And I was like, and it happened in the woods, didn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were 4 days into the hike.
Here. We're closer to the simplicity of God's creation. It makes total sense, right? But yeah, so that's really interesting. So what's your own leadership rhythm? I know that you're, new to business, but you're literally balancing, your strategic side and this heart-centered side of yourself. So
I'm kind of at a crux where I could take on more clients, and I'm not, because I know myself, and I will 100% be like, there are this many workable hours in a day. Right. And I'm trying not to. I'm trying to be my own leader, to take my own advice that I would give and say, no, you need the time to read the silly book. You need that. So my leadership style, it is really interesting to not be leading a team, because from the time I was probably 19 until 37, I led a team. I led a team of 5, 9, 15. So it's interesting trying to be my own leader and lead myself with the way that I've led other organizations, because, it's not just that I'm juggling all the hats. I have to be an example to my child, who has 2 entrepreneurial parents, and not work all the time. I have to lead, I'm in a networking group where I am a group leader, and I have to show up and lead that group and not be authoritarian. So I have the power in my group to decide who joins and who doesn't, and how the meetings run. And it's, that's all best done by a committee. But being a solo entrepreneur, it is really interesting to lead and guide yourself, to look in that mirror. And again, I said it earlier, I wanted to start my business 4 or 5 years ago, and I tripped over myself and said, no, I need this experience first, or that first, or I'm not old enough. So a lot of my leadership with ops is stopping and saying, what would I tell my client? What would I tell my child? And that's hard. That's hard because I want to achieve and I want to do more. And I'm like, well, I'm just reading a book on the couch. I could do some invoicing tonight. Well, you know what? I would tell my clients, sit on the couch.
Be present.
Yeah. So it's hard. Well, I mean, teenager, right? Like be present for who? So, but still, I will.
For you.
Last night I did not take my own advice and I was invoicing late, but yeah, leading yourself is a really interesting experience.
That's what I'm going to have to write that down because that is,
my longest stretch in a C-suite role where I wore kind of a couple hats. I answered to, an owner and then later an owner's son-in-law, but mostly just the owner. And it was interesting because the general rule was if it's getting done, if numbers continue to track up, if this is all good, you will never see me. Perfect. I'm like, that is how I like to work. I would like to feel like I'm my own boss. I like to run the company. I want to do it my way. And I did. And it was successful. And numbers went up and up and up. It was lovely. I didn't realize until it was just me with nobody to impress or run numbers to, how hard I thought I was leading myself then. Oh my gosh, no, I am leading myself now. And I should take my advice more often. I should really listen. I'm pretty smart, apparently, if I'd pay attention to myself.
Apparently. I think that's really impactful, though, because we don't lead ourselves with the same compassion that we lead others with. Yeah. So I have a couple other questions. What advice do you have for leaders who glaze over all the ops stuff because it's not sexy? And they think if you can get away without it, they don't consider it to be sexy.
Well, they obviously have band-aids on subscribe and save because that's what you're doing. You're putting band-aids over things. You're doing patches on your tire rather than replacing it. And no, it's not sexy. I mean, I'm biased. I think it is. I'm like, whoa, organization, having your thoughts on paper. We all have our things, right? Hey, I mean, does my family agree that? No, my family's like, oh, I just want to drop my socks and shoes wherever.
Right.
But when you do that, so just using even just that example, I call them little boy droppings. And that applies to the husband and the teenager, little boy droppings.
It's hilarious.
You're constantly stepping over or around things. And when it's one sock and one shoe, okay. When it's 50, when it's 100, if it goes from having one pair of shoes to 5 pairs of shoes, now you're doing a maze. So right. It might not be sexy to put your stuff away or to stick to the plan or to have those baseline frameworks, but it is sexy to do things faster, right? Like nobody's ever like, you know what I want to do? I want to not have a foundation in my house and like, let's not do it'll be
structure, no beams.
There's enough structure that we're okay. It hasn't fallen yet, right? Like 3 Little Pigs. Which house do you want to live in? The one with all the structure and all the beams in place, or the one that a wolf can sneeze and have you be a little snack like that? I think some of the operations, I think all the operations people I know are brilliant, but I sometimes think they overcomplicate things to people. It literally, all operations is it 3 little wolves or 3 little pigs? Who is it? They're pigs. Or this one's my favorite because my background was actually kinesiology and physical therapy. It all comes down to that song we sing as kids, that this bone's connected to the shoulder and the shoulder's connected. That's all operations is.
That's good.
And if it's out of whack, if you're missing 4 vertebrae, if your femur is in your back pocket somewhere, you're going to walk funny.
Yeah. And your business is going to operate real funny.
Right. Can you get it done? Yes.
Maybe.
That's just like, maybe. You'll figure it out. These entrepreneurs are so driven, they will get it done. But my goodness, wouldn't it be easier?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's dream together because this is something I love to do with my clients. What's next for Ops Now?
My dreams are so simple. I want to help 3 companies at a time.
I love
And I've got 3 now that I'm working with. I'm thinking about adding a 4th. What's next is I want to find someone else just as quirky as me about this, and let's buddy up. Let's do this together. And let's make all, and I love small companies. I think I said that. Like, I don't want to work with the big guys. I want to find someone else who thinks enough like me, but also different so that we're more powerful. I love diversity of thought.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go in together because, when I think about when my kid was little, my baby, my 15-year-old was little, I want to help companies whose names are on the back of his jerseys. I want to,
Mm-hmm.
I can only affect so many of those through my networks, through my time that I'm going to tell myself not to abuse. My dream is to find someone else, not this year, but probably in the next 2, 3 years. And we do this together, whether I'm training them or they're already existing and we buddy up. And let's help more kinds of companies. Let's bring more sponsorships to the back of a little league jersey. Let's help some entrepreneur and some of their dreams are so simple. I want to be at my kid's game. I want to go on vacation for 2 weeks and not have to look at my email. My dreams are to make those dreams come true. And moving it back to EOS, there's the Walt Disney, Roy Disney conversation. I don't want to be Walt Disney. I want to be 2 steps behind, making sure there's something in your path. That's the 2 5-year dream of ops. And my kid is a sophomore. So I've got 2.5 years with him at home. And then 4 or 5 years of college or whatever. I took the 5-year path. Maybe he'll get it done in 4. But that's my path. I want to be in a place that in 9 years, I can run this thing from anywhere. I want to be that leader again. I want to have a team below me. I want to sit around and wave my magic wand for other people, whether they are a team that I've built beneath me or the clients they're serving. Now, your dream. I want to hear your dream.
Very similar, to I'm really in a place of building legacy. And that's really top of mind for me and what that looks like from a financial perspective, but also a presence perspective and being able to be present with my 8-year-old and create a solid financial future for her. But from a bit, and that translates to business because my business is the way that I do these things. And I am really trying to impact more women and have more small businesses have their stories told, like through this podcast, and just be a blessing to others and help them to become more visible so that they are creating that legacy for themselves and their families. So, before we go, I really enjoyed this conversation. I could talk to you all day. But before we go, I want to have a little fun with you.
Okay. And this is a story with no flavor, so I don't know how much fun. This is like truly I don't even have a hint of lines. I don't know how fun now.
Sorry. Okay, so rapid fire. Say the first thing that comes to mind. Your coffee or tea order.
What time of day is it?
Whatever time you
Oh, well, if it's before 8 a.m., it is a green tea with nothing. And if it is after 11, it is a lavender black tea, like a lady gray with lavender with cream and sugar and just basically a tea milkshake.
Yummy. Early bird or night owl?
Early.
Love it. One value you never compromise on?
My family. I mean, I know that's not quite a value, but like they come first. Does not matter. Like that is, I've been with my husband since 1999. I was 16. Like my family comes first, always.
I love it. Your go-to tool or habit for managing overwhelm?
A YA really a YA youth book. Something whimsical. There's probably fantasy, but it's innocent. It's innocent and it's sweet, and somebody just wanted to write a book about dragons or fairies, and it's just escapism. I don't watch TV. That is if I'm overwhelmed and chaos, I will read a very silly book that I would let an 8-year-old read.
I love it. One book or resource that you believe every entrepreneur or small business owner should have or read. Rocket Fuel. Ooh, who wrote that? Do you know? Don't worry about it. I'll put it in the show notes.
It's part of the EOS, but it was not Gino Wickman. It was his.
Okay. Cool. One word you hope defines your impact.
Lasting.
I love it. Well, Charlotte, thank you so much for being with me today. I have so enjoyed this conversation and everything that you bring to the world. To everyone listening, let's take Charlotte's words of wisdom today and remember that we can build systems that matter and that build people and culture. Until next time, stay rooted, stay connected, and stay in relationship.